Hello everyone, it's Kelly from Colorado here again, and today I thought I'd give you a quick peek at my annual veggie garden as we're waiting for an update on the food forest that I put in this year. As you can see, my annual garden's up in a raised bed within a raised bed because our property is actually cut out of a hill. If you saw the food forest video, you saw that it's on a hill, but this side of the yard they actually cut out the hill and made a retaining wall and made a raised garden. So, as I take you up into the garden, this lower area is just kind of a nice little perennial flower garden. These two pots up front are actually my kids' gardens, which they've planted a few peas and carrots in so far this year, but they just put a bunch of peanuts in, which you've never grown before, so that should be a fun adventure. Then in this first bed, I've put a variety of different kinds of tomatoes, kale, pepper, and basil. And then there's some onions in there that are actually coming back from last year. And as you can see in each of my beds, I've put a marigold or two to keep up with some of the insects, and just because it makes it look nice. I actually want to rework this entire area at some point, but the food forest was the big project for this year. In this bed we have similar tomato, peppers, basil, kale. This is some dinosaur kale. Never grown that before. And then in this bed over here, I've just put in some onions that I had started inside, and then on the other half over there is actually asparagus coming up that is about 4 years old. So it's actually starting to produce some asparagus now. In this bed, we have peas coming up on both sides, and then in the middle, I have some early white kohlrabi, and around that I've planted a couple varieties of carrots and beets. These containers you may recognize as compost bins, which I've converted to raised beds, and I planted my garlic in. It seems to be doing really well this year. Put that in the fall. This right here is something I've never grown before. It's called jicama, and it grows a root that you can eat. And I've never tried to grow it here in Colorado. I started it inside early, so we'll see what that does. I like experimenting, even if it fails. I like to try something new every year. In this one, we've got some strawberry spinach and some long-standing spinach coming up. And in this little pot, we've got garlic chives, kale, and some lettuce that volunteered from seed from last year. In each of these freestanding pots in the middle, I have peppers of, I think, 4 different kinds. Most of them are sweet. I think I have 1 hot pepper. I used to have these 3 pots. It's kind of a weird setup over by the wall, but it just got too much shade. I was hoping it would set it up high enough that it would get sun, but it just wasn't working, so I had to move them. And in this bed, which has this structure over it, I've planted national pickling cucumbers and double yield cucumbers around the edge, and I'm going to put a net or a fence around that so that they can grow up it and I can just reach in and pick them. That's the idea anyway. And in the center I've planted some bush beans. As for this bed, you can see I don't really like rows. This is my greens bed. It's got a whole bunch of different kinds of lettuce, kale, corn salad, spinach, just a little bit of everything, and I've just thrown it in there. It's coming up pretty well. I also put a dinosaur kale in there and a red Russian kale. I also threw in a few celery sprouts. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between them. So I kind of pick this, and my kids pick this as it grows, and then it just keeps coming back. So that's everything in this upper part of the garden. I have a few extra areas I will show you real quick that have annual veggies in them. One of them is this strip right here by the fence. I've planted a whole bunch of cucumbers, 3 different kinds that I'm hoping will grow up this fence. If you can see over there on the hill, that's where the food forest is. And there's a annual bed over there that I've planted corn, beans, and zucchini in. And over here on the edge, there's this long strip, and it goes down the side of the retaining wall. And I've planted pumpkins and acorn squash, spaghetti squash, and butternut squash. And I'm hoping they will go down the side of the retaining wall and grow kind of hanging there. Again, something I've never tried, so everything's kind of an experiment. But I like experimenting because you never know what you're going to figure out, especially in your own climate. In Colorado, some things can be challenging, so you have to just keep trying. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll give you an update of this garden as well. If you haven't already, go check out my food forest video. I'll be doing an update of that once it gets growing and I have something to show you. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.